Howdy, y'all. I'm Fran with the developer relations team here at WP Engine. And today, as always, but this is even more a level of stoke because I was telling Luke and Shane that this is exactly what I want to do before Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, y'all. And this is breaking the speed limit in creating a chatbot for Headless WordPress in 10 minutes. Now, I've brought some experts on the subject matter here, and Shane Daly is actually mentoring me with VectorDBs and the WP Engine AI Toolkit. But I have Shane Daly with me, who's a principal engineer here, and then Luke Patterson, who's the manager here for the product. So I'm going to kick it off to Shane because he made some slides. So Shane, the floor is all yours.
All right. Howdy, everyone. So today we're going to be creating a chatbot for Headless WordPress in about 10 minutes. Now, we may be cheating along the way, but it's only minor things. And we're going to be using WP Engine's AI Toolkit. We're going to be integrating with Gemini, and we're going to create a RAG-based experience. So we're your hosts. I'm Shane Daly, Principal Software Engineer at WP Engine. We've got Fran and Luke as well, Developer Advocate and Product Manager Senior. All right. So the plan today is just a quick overview of what we're going to be doing. Once we're through the overview, we're going to deploy the chatbot in 10 minutes or less, hopefully. We're going to take a look at the AI SDK, which kind of enables this experience using a Next.js application. And then we can do a walk through the code. And then after that, we can answer all the questions. Although if there's questions through the talk, please feel free to drop them in chat. All right, so here's what we're going to be building today. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to have a WordPress site. This WordPress site is going to contain information about TV shows that I blog about. I'm going to have the WP Engine AI Toolkit add-on installed on this WordPress site. And what that's going to be doing is going to be vectorizing my data. We'll talk about that in a second. Next, we have the chatbot itself, which will be talking to Gemini, and it'll be sourcing natural language queries via the similarity search API, which we'll dig into. All right. So the things we're doing. So we're going to create a WordPress environment. I, handily enough, already have created one, and I've added a license to it, and I've indexed the data. Next is our chatbot, which is our Next.js application. We're going to be talking about the components, the AI SDK, the LLM, Gemini in this case, and we're going to be talking about tools. In the example, I've provided two tools. One is to fetch weather information, and the second one is to fetch information from WP Engine AI Toolkit. I know it says Smart Search here, but we're rebranding that. And then we're going to deploy it to the Headless platform, so this can live and run on WP Engine. So this is kind of like the end result, look and feel. So it's just a basic chatbot. It says powered by Gemini at the bottom. That's just for glamour, you could say. And we have the interaction with the Gemini LLM. So you can see here, I'm asking some questions. What can you do? I'm asking about the weather, and I'm looking for revenge-based sci-fi TV shows. Do you have any recommendations? And response. So we'll do this. All right, start the clock. So first off, what I'll be doing is, so I have the code base here locally, which I will open. We'll be diving into the code later, but this application is our chatbot. So let me run this.
I've started the clock, Shane.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we'll just like...
Yeah, Guinness Book of World Records is also on this. On this
well, we got to hurry up.
Let's go.
All right, so here's our chatbot. I can ask queries like, what can you do? Live demos. Okay, I'm just admitting people as they're coming in as well, just FYI. So I say, what can you do? And it says I can answer questions about TV shows using the Smart Search tool. I can provide information about the weather. So I can say, what's the weather in Limerick, Ireland, which is where I am based. So it just says the current weather is 22 degrees. If you ask an LLM normally, it doesn't have this information, so it'll just say, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe we can run through a demo of that later. So this is our chatbot. It's working locally, so That's very nice. All well and good. It's all hooked up. So the next thing I want to show you is this is my WordPress site, which I've created a bunch of TV show entries. We can click through. Each of them just has a very small description about what the TV show is about. And we're using Smart Search, or WP Engine AI Toolkit for that matter, to index our data. And it's configured for natural language processing on my post content field. So we'll just give a quick look at this. So here I've got a hybrid search setup, and I've got my post content, and I've also vectorized my categories. So that's great. So that's my WordPress site. So how do we get the chatbot live and up into the web? So today, let's just take a quick look. So I've uploaded my code to GitHub here, and it's a Smart Search RAG chatbot. This has seen a bunch of evolution. The previous iteration was using OpenAI, and this one is tailored for Gemini. So all my code is here. And what's interesting is it's compatible with the Headless platform. So I'm not going to select a blueprint. I'm going to pull from a repository. Alrighty, so I'm going to look up my repo here. And the branch that I'm interested in is my Gemini tools integration. Okay, we're going to go on next. And since I'm in Ireland, let's go to the United Kingdom. And since that name already exists, let's just call it Gemini. Gemini bot. And then we'll click next. I'm going to link my WordPress environment. So my WordPress environment is decode search over here. And choose that. Cool. I'm not going to install the headless plugins. Now, there's 3 environment variables that I need. So we said earlier that we're integrating with the AI Toolkit or Smart Search. Both do the same thing at the moment. And I need 2 environment variables for those. So I'm going to just grab them from my local here. So the first one we need is our Smart Search URL. And we're just going to copy that here. The second one is our Smart Search access token. And this is just to authorize our requests against the API there. The last one is, and I'd ask people not to steal my key, but I will be deleting it after this demonstration. So I do have a Google Generative AI API key, which is used to talk to the Gemini APIs. Alrighty. Yeah, get a good look at that. So we'll add the app. So now, by the time this is finished and everything going well, we will have a chatbot that's live and ready for use on the web and not just on my local machine. Now, I may have skipped a few steps. Fran, what time are we at?
We're at 4.5 minutes, Shane.
Okay.
4.5.
So all we got to do is wait for the headless to deploy my app.
Yeah. It's coming.
It's on the way. It's baking at the moment.
There's something to mention. There's been, when I was doing this locally, and we ran into an interesting issue with OpenAI. I was using OpenAI as my AI model, not Gemini. But Shane, I'm sure it's the same thing where I have an API key from OpenAI. You put it in your environment variable folder. Folks, remember to pay for access to the API, because I was like, Shane, I swear I'm going crazy. Why does it say I'm over the limit, but my usage is 0 on the dashboard of OpenAI? And it's deceiving because I thought there's like a free couple of requests that you can make against it, but you have to actually put money into it. So that's one thing to note, because there was people having issues with it. You have to, yep, exactly, Mike. You got to load up the wallet.
The error message is quite nebulous, though.
There's no free. Let's try it free.
Nothing's free with AI anymore, except for Google right now, actually. I'll point that out.
Yeah.
I think it's for a limited time, but I'm not sure when that's ending. Be nice if they kept it for a while, because it gets folks like us playing around with the tools.
Well, they want to Yeah, they want you to play around with it. Then they'll start charging you after they work out the. Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to refresh the page here.
Yep. You should get that nice looking.
Oh, we're still running.
Okay.
I guess we could look at the build logs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's interesting to note here is that since this is technically a Next.js app, it's fully compatible with the headless platform. Okay, success. This is a good thing.
Yes.
So we'll just go back to our overview here. And all right, I'm just going to go back here.
Dude, this is sick.
So we can see it in the list. All right. So Gemini bot. And we're just waiting on the status here. But I think if I click this, or is it this? Oh, yeah.
It's that one.
Yeah,
it's
we're
that
just,
one, because the other one will take you to GitHub.
Yeah. So we're just waiting for a URL here.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, once things are getting in order, the tension is building slightly.
Yep.
Hopefully not for that.
I got 2 minutes. Come on.
All right, here we go.
Yes.
And then, yeah, what do you do? So now this chatbot is now live. If people in the chat want to check it out, here you go. I'll paste the link. Yeah, and everyone can go there and ask you questions about the weather and things that Smart Search delivers, which is TV shows at this particular instance.
Yep.
All right. Cool. So just coming back to the slides, do I have anything else? No, I just had some instructions on how to get a Gemini API key that you can use with this application. But we can just jump into the code right now, and we can take a look around. There's no pending questions at the moment, at this point. I don't see any. Cool. All right. I need to roll those keys.
Shane, could you tell us a little bit about, just to kind of, because we went really fast because it's easy to go fast with our tools, but can you tell us a little bit more about how the data gets out of WordPress into the vector pipeline, and then how it interacts with the chatbot as context and why that's important?
Yeah. So this journey kind of starts with Smart Search. So we added a license to our site. Here, I'll just bring up the site. And I've configured it so it will vectorize my post content. So what does that mean? So if I create a post, here, the Smart Search plugin is going to keep all of our data up to sync real time. And we'll actually demonstrate this in a second. Actually, let's do it right now. So with this live application, let's say, I think, Fran, you had a great one of Dairy Girls.
Yes.
Do you know about Dairy Girls?
Great Netflix show about Northern Ireland.
I cannot spell. Now, it might misbehave.
Yeah, and hallucinate, which AIs can do.
Looks like we have a little issue here. The demo gods are not kind today. Yeah, let me just refresh and ask again. What do you know about Dairy Girls? All right, great. It must have been just a glitch with this tab. So it says, I was unable to find any information about Dairy Girls, but it found these other titles. The cool thing here is we were talking about our data. So let's do this. And this is the beauty of this type of integration, because your data gets updated real time. So we can say Dairy Girls is a TV show based in Northern Ireland. And we can publish this.
Shane, so you don't need a featured image set, do you? It's fine. You don't need
it. It's okay. It's just operating on the text on the text this time around. Yep, so we'll come back and we'll ask the exact same question again. And hopefully, there we go. So immediately our context was available. And this will be true if you delete posts as well. So that's the nice thing about it. It stays in line. So you don't have to update your chatbot context. It's just automatically being sourced from Smart Search in this integration, which is really good. So if you've got lots of content editors, you've got loads of content coming in, that content is going to be available in the chatbot context here.
And Shane, you did state to me, because it's one of these things where someone may ask, and a lot of people have, like, why vector DBs? Can't you just do this in WordPress without it? And right, the answer is, like you told me, it would be, you could, right? Essentially, you could.
You could. I believe there's an initiative going at the moment for, there's a group of devs. They're trying to implement a vector database in MySQL, but unfortunately, it's a bit on the slow slide because it wasn't ever designed to be a vector DB.
Yeah.
So you will get good results with a small data set, but as your data set grows, your search response times will be ever increasing.
There's a question. Oh, I think Luke answered it. Yep. We run our own. Yeah, we roll our own. So managed hosted.
Yeah, we roll our own one.
Yep.
And it's attached to your license. Your data is going to be just in that kind of box of storage there. And the cool thing here is, oh, I must have forgot to save something. So as I'm updating things, they'll stay in sync. I could delete something here. It would be gone from the context because it would not be in the vector DB anymore. And this is all down to the plugin here. You can also just delete everything and start again, if there's something missing out. Yeah, just re-index, Yeah. We've all done that at some point in our lives, I think. And anyone has done it on Spotlight and Mac, it takes an age. Cool. So this is this piece here. So all of the data is just being kept up to date. And every question that gets prompted here, Gemini will decide to use the tool. In this case, if we're asking about TV shows, it's going to decide, hey, I need to get some data. The Next.js app then is programmed to provide this tool and execute this similarity search to get the context for the query. So then Gemini can, I guess, answer more confidently about the question being asked. This is really good because you can keep your data offsite and you can operate it that way. Okay, Miha, that's a good question. So how does the weather tool work? Actually, that's a really good place to kind of jump in here and see what's going on. So we'll get into the app semantics in a second, but let's just take a look at maybe how this prompt is working.
Yep.
So here I have an API route in my Next.js app. I think it's just API chat, and it accepts post requests. One part of the request is the message, so the user message that you might type in, and also the entire chat history. This is just a helper tool to make your messages compatible with the under the hood here. We have two system prompts. I've got one for Smart Search, and I've got just one generic one. So my system prompt is, you are a friendly AI assistant. You could change it to your own needs. I might make this a tiny bit bigger. There we go. And then there's a prompt here. You can use the weather tool to provide current weather information for a specific location. And then the classic, don't invent information, stick to the data provided by the tool. So we see here we're using this thing called stream text. So this is just a utility that can stream text back using server sent events. The next one here is the Google model. So we're plugging in Gemini Flash 2.0. And then I'm joining my two prompts together. Just out of curiosity, we could get rid of this for now. And we'll get rid of the Smart Search tool. So now this application does not rely on Smart Search. So we could say, I want to know about sci-fi shows. Now, I think it's just going to give a very generic response, or yeah, look, it's saying I can only provide weather information. So you see, I've removed the system prompt to say, here, you can use this tool to source this data. But in this case, I can only ask about the weather. So like, what's the weather at home? Oh yeah, so it doesn't know what at home is. That's actually a really good response for the LLM. Let's do Texas.
Hot.
So you'll notice something here, right? So this will give you clues into how this tool is working. Let's say in Antarctica. Hope I spelled that right. So this is funny now. So I've gotten the same response back twice. Like, how is that? So I purposely implemented the tool that it didn't reach out to anything. So let's take a look at the tool. So with all tools, you give it a description. Description helps the LLM decide whether to use the tool or not. You can also give it parameters and describe those parameters as well. That also helps the LLM to pass in the correct type of data into the tool. So it says here, get the current weather information for a specific location. Use this to answer questions about the weather in different cities. And then the location is the location where to get the weather information. So if you look at my implementation here, here's my execute function. So you could theoretically, so I'm just simulating, so I'm just hard coding this weather information. But you see the LLM now it's using my code to provide the answers, from what it's asked. So I theoretically could reach out to an actual weather API and get the weather for that location. And then that data then is returned to the LLM and then it's returned to the client. So that gives it a more dynamic feel. And you could do this with anything. This could be a mutative action, like add this to a calendar. You're in control of all of the tool code here, which is really nice. And that's how you deliver these types of mutative actions or getting real-time information, just like we got from Smart Search. The Smart Search tool is hooked up to use the API. That's why when we asked about Dairy Girls, we got an answer. We didn't get an answer in the first place, but then we got an answer in the second place. So these things are quite useful. But I think this is a really nice, just small tool to kind of get to understand like how the LLM chooses to use the tool, and then it runs your code and how it goes about it. And it's really simple to hook up. Like you can see here, look, I'm just choosing this Google model. I'm using this system prompt. You can use the weather tool to provide information. And then I just pass in that tool definition here. And that's basically it. It's a very small bit of code to kind of provide this very small, I guess, chat-like experience. But you can kind of see the more tools you add, the more functionality you could get, or the more chaos you could.
And interchangeably, Shane, it's in this file, this route.ts file, that if you wanted to switch up the model and put ChatGPT, OpenAI in there, you just put it within the that array right there, the const. Yeah.
That's right. You can see here. So we're pulling in a library called AI. We're also pulling in AI SDK, Google. Right. There's AI SDK, OpenAI. There's I think there's Anthropic as well. All of the major. Anthropic. Yeah. All of the major players. So I have my prompt, my setup of the model. I could change this to, is there 2.5 Flash? Is that a thing? I'll just show you how easy that is to switch out to.
Switch it off.
Yeah. So let's see. Okay. What do you do? Okay. Looks like that's not the name of that model. But if we had the right one, we could swap this model name out and we could pull anything from Google. If you swap the provider out, you could take any model from OpenAI.
Very nice.
Cool. Let's say you are a friendly and helpful assistant. You are not. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay. This would be interesting. Hello? Okay, it's quite friendly. I didn't toy around with that. I thought that would be funny just now, but look. You are an evil. Oh yeah, you see I have helpful and unhelpful. Okay, let's see what happens now.
That's a good question, Alex.
Are you evil? Yes, I am evil. How can I help you achieve your nefarious goals today? The weather, please, for Limerick. Perfect day for plotting world domination. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. So you can see how easy it is to customize this, once it's set up, and it's the cognitive load is quite low. Obviously,
Shane,
oh yeah, go for it.
Go ahead.
I was just saying the cognitive load is quite low. Obviously, when you start introducing more tools, the more complex it gets. But you can do more than just this kind of over and back. You can do things like maybe drawing your own React components based on a response that came back from the weather API. One of the examples in, I think it's called generative UIs. Yeah, there we go. So just to kind of dig into this a little more. Yeah, so you can have the over and back chat, but then you can start showing widgets based on the tool's output. So if you imagine maybe the weather, there was a really good weather one. Okay, maybe it was in here. Okay, can't find it. But there was one was like, what's the weather?
And one, yeah.
And the weather came back and it just showed like sunny, rainy, for the whole week. So it was a nice kind of interactive experience. And that's all baked into the AI SDK as well.
Shane, Alex actually had two questions. One Luke kind of answered, but we would maybe you could show us the code on the first question Alex had. His second question is, does this work for all index data in the vector DB, even if it's not sourced from WordPress? Things synced via the indexing API.
Yep, that's a great question. So let's go back to our little overview here. So in this example, we've designed and developed a plugin that can talk to this API, but you don't have to be a WordPress site. You can be a client consumer that's coming out from over here. So imagine you had some sort of book API that just kept there. You could write a script that would pull the books out of that API and push them into Smart Search, while also adding the vectorization to, I'd say, maybe the book's excerpt or the abstract, things like that. And this whole process would work exactly the same. The cool thing here is that since this API is kind of removed, but the interface is consistent, as no matter what data you put in here, you could ask as many questions as you want. And if the similarity search returns relevant results, it'll still provide context to the LLM. Cool.
Yeah. And then there was another one where question where they're saying, when giving answers about index data, can it link out to the source material and further reading?
Yes, it can do that. There was something. Let's try to do that right now, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's put some.
Yeah, I just need to check something. So let's take a quick look at maybe the similarity search API.
Okay.
So I've got some GraphQL queries here. Apologies for the mess. Let's do this. I'll just set up a new client here. So I've got this. All right. So I've got the exact endpoint here that the LLM is using to fetch results. It's a GraphQL API. So let's do this just to make it tidy so we can see. And we'll kind of run through it really quickly. All right. So let's run this query. Please run. So I've ran the query for revenge. And what's come back is a bunch of data or documents in this case. So these are the WordPress representation. So it's the post ID 13. Looks like I had an ACF field there, but I didn't fill it out. We've got some categories that we've filled in. And we've got post content, and then we've got post URL. Okay, so this was the thing I was interested in. So let's update our chatbot to consider the post URL. And let's update the prompt then to say, if you ever provide a TV show, also provide the source. Okay, first things first. This is the Smart Search API tool. Here is the data that we're mapping back to the LLM. So I'll say, let's say post URL. And we'll pull out the post URL. Or we could say permalink maybe. Okay. We'll save that.
I think it was already in there, Shane.
Oh, was it? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, was it? Yep.
You're right. Cool. All right, let's go back Let's make sure our smart search bot is hooked up. So we'll say, if your search results, we'll summarize them for the user and provide the URL source. All right. You could get really deep into prompt engineering here, just getting the LLM to do what you want for you. So hopefully this works. And then I want to add back my smart search prompt. Okay. So we've added it back. I'll just kill the server. I know it's hot reloading, but you never know. And then we'll come back here and we'll run through this again. So you could say, I am looking for sci-fi TV shows. And hopefully now this thing will give us the URLs, which it does. So this is WandaVision, gives us a link right out to this guy. So we got WandaVision right to the permalink. So you see, with a small bit of prompt engineering, you can get kind of that data back out. That was a great question, actually. Yeah. Do a live.
Shane, I had a quick question on you. Can you go back to your project, your repo? Yeah.
Yep.
In the GraphQL folder, are you querying against the Smart Search API in this, or what do you have in there? I was just curious. I'm just literally curious about what's in the GraphQL folder. Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll start with the tool. So the tool says, hey, I'm executing the search query. I have this wrapper called getContext.
Yep.
And what you'll see in here is very similar to what we did in the Postman query here. So this is a GraphQL client that has been generated with the GraphQL CodeGen library. And in the GraphQL folder is that generated client. So if the Smart Search API updates for any reason, I can just regenerate the client. That means I can get myself some new options here. And maybe I want to kind of further expand my query. Where is my query? Here it is. Here's my query. So this is my similarity query. For folks that are familiar with GraphQL, it's the query, the name of the query. It takes an input of similarity inputs, and then we just pass that right on into the API here. And then we say, give me all the total amount of records. And then for each document, give me back the ID, the score, the JSON blob of data. And this API also supports data chunking. So if you had a record, let's say your post content was as long as a book, the API also supports chunking that data up into small sections. So it will return to you the relevant sections. That's just one other thing to call out. And in the GraphQL folder, so here we are. So we've the generated client. And here's all of the generated slop here. I wouldn't recommend reading that. But what you do get is a very quick and easy way to initialize the client with so those environment variables earlier that we put into the headless. So we're just reading them here. Not too much error handling, but you could. And then this particular tool allows you to return an SDK. And the SDK is based off of your queries here. So I could write additional queries, maybe I could take out this and maybe have one designated without inner documents or one with inner documents. We can link out to the API.
Yeah, I was going to say, that would be a good link out.
I think originally I had written this by hand, and it gets a bit ugly when you're kind of inlining GraphQL queries. Cool. And I just wanted to really quickly just show the front end and kind of how simple it was. So this entire time we've been talking about the API route. So I could hit that directly, with a REST client like Postman or curl or something like that, and I would get back a response. But this is a Next.js app. So we have a page here. And the most important thing on this page is this import here, use chat. So this is provided to you. So when you call use chat, it automatically sets itself up. So when you handle a submit, it's going to point that to API chat automatically. So you don't have to write any of the client code. This hook is just wired up to do that. But it gives you some really useful things. So like the messages that are in memory, the current input that the user has been typing, And it gives you functions to handle the input change. So if you look at here, me typing here, I have this function wired up, which I'll show in a sec. And then I have handle submit, so enter key, or this button here. That's not a very smart. Oh, is it still evil? It might be evil. And then we've got set messages and status. These are just, for, as React devs, these are all the kind of UI components. Cool thing here is you can just use an effect. So as I'm loading this, I can just add a custom message.
Yeah.
I am evil. I am evil bot. Okay. Thanks, Copilot. There you go. Just adding that to the messages bus there. Then we have this, just some layout options. I'm using Tailwind. I think that was the default option.
Yeah.
And then we have this chat component, which I'm just passing in these objects there. Then within the chat component, it's just rendering a div with the ID of chat. The messages that you're seeing there is a loading icon as well. So you'll see here I think it's just here. If I do something, write a story, you'll see that loading icon. Not very well positioned, but a loading icon nonetheless. And then I've got a form. My form is handling the input at the bottom here. And I've just broken these out so they're just kind of nice, small logical components. And I know some people might do it differently.
Dude, Shane, there's a Nuxt equivalent, a Nuxt.js equivalent for this use chat hook. Yes.
Is there?
I'm
nice.
stoked. Yeah. So
very good.
If you guys like a written form of content, I'm actually going to write about Shane's entire repository, but in an article form and it's going to be a step-by-step how-to guide, and it's going to be dense, but it's the nature. I'm going to explain everything via written content. But Shane, should I do this in Nuxt?
Yes.
Do this in Nuxt instead.
That would be a challenge for me. I've actually never used Nuxt myself.
I find it so coming from a React, I learned in React, and coming from a React boot camp, I kind of was like, oh, I'm all in on React. But with our space kind of, some people are getting Next.js fatigue and whatnot. I started messing around with Nuxt, and there's some simplicities to it that are like less cumbersome as far as writing the code. And then there's also Alex and Kellen who love SvelteKit. It's just less verbose, and it allows you to do things way better and more efficiently than because there's a lot of things in React that's like, oh man, I'm writing this again, and then there's this and that, and I'm hooking into this, and I'm drilling into this. You know what I mean?
I'm getting there. I'll probably catch up with you very soon. I see a really good
vanilla.js.
Yes, and this prompted
challenge
me.
Accepted? That was a question.
So I think what's under the hood here. So there's something called the event source.
Yeah, don't let me write your CSS. That's for damn sure. I'll screw everything up there.
So what's great about this, you can actually write this in vanilla.js. There's an object in all browsers that's really widely supported. You can see here, it's an object called event source. What event source is, it's doing this. So if we just type this question again, we'll take a look at the network browser. Just say hello. So you can see the style of response is, this kind of indicates it's like a server sent event. So this request hasn't been fulfilled in one turn. It's been fulfilled in chunks as it comes back to you. So if you have a server that's sending you back these chunks, you can actually implement in vanilla.js your front-end code here with event source. And let's just see a little if there's any examples. And you see all of these events. So we have add event listener, notice, update message. These events here are captured as F00ED. So internally, I guess the use chat is making use of these, events here. They might be standard. I'm not sure.
I was going to ask, are these standard?
There is a standard to the server sent event, so it has to be sent in this particular format. So I believe the first bit is the type of event, and then after is the data that comes back. So you can have an event listener So you fire off an request, and let's say you get 10 pings on that event. So that could be chunks of your chat message. And what you could do is you could just append it as that comes in, your React app, or sorry, your vanilla JS app. Could documents.append to something, you know? Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, passing the tokens as well in your backend. So if you were to implement this in your company, I would say, or by yourself as a hobbyist, you with the stream text, I think it's here at the bottom. Yes, there's a on step finished, so you can log the token usage, and depending on the LLM, it'll log like the prompt tokens, the kind of context tokens, and the total amount of tokens. So you could probably make maybe a log based metric or something and make a guess of your spend for that month or prediction. Could be low, could be very high, depending on your usage. Yeah, I just want to point that out. Depending on the model too, yeah. Anyone paying $250 a month for models?
That's funny.
I see Mihao has a question in the chat.
Oh yeah, it's let's see. When is Gemini provided with data from our site? Is Gemini making requests when it needs more data to vector database using similarity?
Really good question. Let's talk about that. So when I ask it something, let's just refresh. So when I say hello, the bot has not used a tool here because it hasn't, the query hasn't prompted it to use a tool. How it uses the tools is kind of based on your prompts. So you might find like some false positives. Like I just asked about TV shows and it said, nice one. And it didn't go fetch any information. That might be because it's evil. But the prompt here is very specific on you can use the smart search tool to find information about TV shows. So the LLM makes the decision based on the user's input, whether or not to actually, I guess, require the need to do that. But the code is always going to be run on the server that you've deployed out into the wild. So it's always going to be run there. And then that will be passed back as input tokens to the LLM. So it's like, now you go get me the context and just give me the output of that. And then I will take that and then consider it in the entire query.
So all of this is happening on that headless server that you've deployed your app to.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's really easy to deploy. So
yep.
I think actually, do we do trials, headless trials still?
We do the sandbox. I think it's still a thing, right?
Yeah.
Sandbox. I think the only, there's caveats to it. It is a demo environment. It's like, it's a demo environment. So you couldn't really, I think one of the things is you can't put your own domain on it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But the cool thing here is with the headless platform, as I'm pushing to this branch, it's just going to keep updating it. Whatever's live is live.
Yeah.
There's some things in this demo that I didn't do. So like obviously this chatbot is now open to the internet and open to abuse. I guess in the right thing you might have a sign up form or something like that.
Right.
Some way to kind of block the access and stuff. But since I just wanted to get to the point of like the chatbot integration, just that alone, because I spent I think about 2 hours like 2 weeks ago trying to just set up a chatbot, and I was fighting with npm dependencies for about 2 hours, and then I just went and watched the TV show. So.
Shane, if you wanted this embedded like on your homepage, for instance, can you tell us a little bit about how that might be accomplished?
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. So there's one thing that I didn't share just yet. I created a embed.js script, which allows you to embed this bot onto any website. So here's the embed.js here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my URL here. And I'm just going to double check that this is the actual one from the demo. Okay, this one. So let's go over, I have this HTML viewer over here, and I have a script that's going to source this thing here. So this is just a boring old web page, very vanilla. what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in this chatbot URL, and I created this embed.js. Now it's quite opinionated, I guess, in the way it looks. So let's just run this. You see here, I've got this little chat window down here, and there's our little smart search chatbot. So we can go and we can fully interact with it here. It's embedded on the site. I'm clicking here. This is all done in vanilla.js, the embedder, but you can do it here. So this is interesting, but not really impressive because it's like, why would I want it here? So let's go back to our search website here. Okay. So adding stuff to WordPress like this script is quite trivial if you know your way around functions.php and the theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to add this chatbot to this website. So I have a open connection here to the functions.php of my theme. I'm going to add this add action WP on Q scripts. I'm going to embed the chatbot, and I've put in my chatbot URL. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to reload the page, and there's my chatbot just embedded. Tell me about sci-fi shows, please. Is this still evil? And there we go. So embedded right there on our site. There's some other things you could take into consideration, like, did I exit Vim? I did.
Can guess things. It's staying put and avoids hallucination. Yep.
Yeah, what I find actually on that point, sorry, now I'm going back and forth, but with the system prompt, I find that it kind of sticks to its tasks much better than, I guess, if you put it into like a chat prompt. The system prompt seems to kind of overrule any escape mechanisms. At least that's what one of the guys at Google told me. So I've been using the system prompt ever since.
Interesting.
And you can see here, it's strictly in the system. Because, sometimes you can kind of break out of, if you're ever doing like some OpenAI stuff, you could break out and get it to do things it's not supposed to do. I find that this is quite good at keeping it on track. Now, I won't say it's impossible. Some of the people out there are really good prompt engineers. And
that's cool, Shane. You can use it both ways, headless and head full, as Luke said.
Yeah.
Head full WordPress.
I got that one from one of our customers. I had never heard it before, but I liked it a lot.
Instead of traditional, I'm going to use that now too. Head full WordPress.
So we've kind of ended up. We built a chatbot, and we'll make the code available open source so everyone can download and try it out. Yep. The repo is also open source, so we'll link it to one of the threads. What was the thing? So there's a couple of things that you can make this chatbot better. See, I navigated away from the page and I have no history. I mean, you could maybe hook this up to a Postgres database, so you could save the chat session and restore it. Oh. You could add tabs. So now that you have this base experience, you can start doing all of the boring things around it. Which is not fun. But I guess if you're developing a product like this, or you just need it for some website or something like that, some of those considerations are good.
Wait, so you can hook it up? Oh, okay. Shane, have you ever messed with Supabase? You said Postgres.
I've messed with Cloud SQL on Google Cloud, but I've never done Supabase, but I know it makes it really easy.
Yeah, it's super easy. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, the last mile. And I didn't write any tests for this repo, so I apologize, but maybe you can do that in the next session.
Oh, that would be a good, yeah. Well, we're winding down on time. Is there any last questions, any last things you want to show, Shane?
I think that was kind of it. Yeah, unless anyone has any specific questions about how it works or anything like that, happy to answer. I'll be in the Discord as well. So if anyone has any questions, go there and you can find me. I think it's Shane D24 is my hook, or just Shane Daly. Yeah, you'll find me.
Can you question, Shane, can you connect the vector database from the sandbox from the local environment, or can you run it locally easily?
So you can run the chatbot. So let's go back here. So here I'm running the chatbot locally. And in my env file, I'm just pointing it to the vector DB up in the cloud. We don't have a mechanism to run this locally since it's kind of like a service product for now. But from the sandbox, we can double check that. We'll double check that.
Shane, can you SFTP into it? Can you? You want to take it way back?
So just, well, I'm SSH, so I could SFTP. Put that in the shirt.
Throw it back to 2013, man. When you start still.
SFTP puts bread on the table, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Back in 2013. Well, awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, y'all. I think that's all the questions we got. We're going to have another event pretty soon. Just stay tuned for it. I'll publicize it and promote it. And I'm also going to do a full-on, like I said, look out for my article. I'm going to do a full-on write-up for written content on this. It's going to be step-by-step how to create this and implement this and then deploy it. So look out for that. And until then, have a good Memorial Day weekend, y'all, if you're in the US, and happy coding. Cheers, y'all.